you got to, once you put this coat on, it's no more now. Now you ought to know.
And you got a coach that designs the playbook that you got to follow.
Yes.
And everybody on the team has to follow this same playbook. And if you decide you're going to do something different that's not in that playbook, if you decide to do something not in that playbook, you can't be on that team because you're not functioning as part of the team.
There we go, right there.
Welcome to a continuation of Fearless in the Wrong Way. We were talking about, as we ended the previous episode, we were talking about how a believer begins to live a life and walk in a space that they walk in the fear of the Lord. They walk in an obedience that's becoming of being a believer. And you say, wow, that sounds like it's legal, but it sounds like it's driven by something, really. It's not driven by anything legalistic. It's driven by having something inside of your spirit and having something that motivates you and having something that moves you in a direction that brings you closer to God. And that's what I think we want to talk about today as a continuation of our previous episode, because I think a lot of times we talk about things and we don't dig into it. So I want to dig into this space a little bit, and I want to open up a dialogue, because I think it's a change in thinking, but it's a change that starts at the heart level, at the inner man level that you often talk about, Dale.
Mm-hmm.
And so with this, Marlon, Dale, I definitely want you to kind of just bring out some what I call some words that bring about a visual.
Okay.
Some words that bring about a visual. And I'm going to try to do the same, but I want to start with saying a scripture that I think shows a turnover in mindset. And it's Matthew 5, verses 43 through 45. And it says this. It says, "You have heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that ye may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and the unjust." Mm-hmm. So, from a believer's perspective, there's a complete change in mindset to what the norm was, or even what the norm is out in culture. And I think a lot of times what we're fighting as believers is we're fighting our own selves. We're fighting what we've been subjected conditioned to, and influenced by. Because one of the things we were talking about in the last episode was the power of influence on behavior. And I think, look, if somebody says that nothing influences them, I believe they're a liar. It's just like somebody who says they don't sin. You know, it says, the scripture says you're a liar if you say that. Mm-hmm. If you say, I've never sinned. Okay, are you God himself?
Are you even alive?
Yeah, you probably did. So I guess I want to dig into some of this visual picture of behavior. One of the things I think about immediately is, what is the condition of your heart? Because God says, he doesn't judge a man by any of the outward appearance, but he looks on the heart.
Right.
So what's the condition of our hearts? I think that's the place where you got to start. You can't even go forward without looking inward and say, what is my inner man really function like?
Yeah, and that's a tough part, no. Return inward.
But why is that so tough? Because this is the thing.
Because we're taught to live outward.
But this is the thing that I think believers have to get, Dale.
Mm-hmm.
You see,
I want you to. I want to dig into this.
Let me say this,
because I want to lead people with something, with a direction, with an understanding.
What we do, I love my bad. What we do. This is the problem. there's a decision that has to be made first. Has to be a decision. Do I choose to want to walk this walk? As if I want this job that I'm applying for.
Correct.
Do I really want to work for this company?
Correct.
See, that's the first decision that has to be made, because if you're willing to go ahead and produce and work for this company, there's a set of requirements that is necessary for you to be a part of this. So when we say believer, you're already conditioning yourself to want to live as a believer. And every believer has a playbook. Every believer has an instruction manual.
Correct.
Right? So first you need to understand your instruction manual. What I don't want, what we need to stop doing is people that say they want to live this way, but then try to live the same way they did before they got this instruction manual. If you're going to prescribe to this, you must prescribe to the instruction manual in the playbook.
I totally agree with that. I guess what I'm saying is, doesn't the heart have to accept that first?
Yes.
Before you can even move into that space?
Exactly.
Because it says, like Scripture says, if you're willing and obedient, it's not just about coming in compliance.
That's what
it's
I'm
about
saying.
a heart posture that's willing.
What I'm saying is if you put this cloak on, you put this jacket on.
Yeah.
If I wear this uniform,
Right.
if I wear Miami Dolphins uniform, or this is Miami Dolphins team, I'm going to have my own Miami Dolphins playbook, right?
Right. And you're going to practice with the Miami Dolphins.
Exactly. So as a believer, you put this coat on. Now, see, these questions and these doubts and these things that you had before, you got to, once you put this coat on, it's no more now. Now you ought to know.
And you got a coach that designs the playbook.
Yes.
That you got to follow.
Yes.
And everybody on the team has to follow this same playbook. And if you decide you're going to do something different that's not in that playbook, if you decide to do something not in that playbook, you can't be on that team because you're not functioning as part of the team.
There we go, right there.
So this is what I had. This is what you're saying is what I have the issue with. We're trying to be something without getting the playbook and doing what's in the playbook.
Yes. Violation.
How do we change that? How do you get somebody to realize that that's what they're doing?
Well, let me ask you from this perspective. If I am the president and the owner or the coach, and I got a player that's not willing to play by my rules, what do I do? What happens?
He's not gonna build a team.
He's gonna get cut. Right?
Yeah, he's not gonna build a team.
Simple as that. That's what it is. If you're not willing to follow the rules of the team, I'm sorry.
So I think some people think they're on the team and they're not.
Well, yeah, of course they do. Yeah, there's people that believe they can fly too. Yeah.
Like R. Kelly?
Yes.
I believe
he's one of them. Yes.
Dale, what are your thoughts about what I know we're talking about something that you've said some things about, and about people just making bad decisions and living with the bad decisions. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Kind of. So should we when we want to get people to do the right, when we want to try to, I don't ever say get people to do the right thing. Introduce them to the right thing and let them decide. Because that's what it really is. You introduce them to something, you give them the proper information. Just like if I got the playbook and I'm supposed to run the routes of a wide receiver and that's the position I'm going to play, if I want to stay on that team, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
So how do we get people to realize how they should be following the playbook for their own ultimate benefit when they haven't been in that space? As a believer, they haven't been in that space, meaning basically they've been deceiving their own selves.
I think it's psychological, and it's just a societal problem. So it's going to be a fight, because you got the playbook, but then you're seeing how people are living outside of that playbook. So it's a constant fight. And like you say, it starts in the heart. So you got to ask for your heart to be transformed. And then you start seeing these spiritual things work. And then you have to constantly seek. Because if you don't, then that's where the problem lies, you know. But like I say, society, everything is outward. You see what I'm saying? So now we're talking about human body, spirit,
Right.
two totally different things, even though they're in one individual.
Right.
Most times people don't live from the spirit. They don't know they have a soul or anything. So you're only concerned with is what outside of the body. So if people see, well, this person lie, they cheat, but wow, look at their house. You see what I'm saying? But now if I read the Bible, where's my house? This is how people break stuff down, but that's the problem. And what this is gonna offer you the best life. I could say that even for myself. Like I've always made money, right? But then it was still a big hole, a void until I got that. Now that I got that, I can still make the money, but the money does not matter. You see what I'm saying?
Well,
Because you want the spirit to be fulfilled. I had the money, but I didn't have peace. Now I have the peace, the money doesn't matter. And then that allows you to live, treat people better, you know, all these different things. But when you're the outward person, you're not going to do it because you're going to say, oh, this person tried me. They slapped me, I'm going to slap them back, or this and that. You know, that's the way it goes. You're not going to be able to turn the other cheek.
I agree. I think that's an important thing to understand, but I still know that we still a lot of times are exposed to things in our daily living. We're exposed to things that can easily take us off track in some cases. Like let's say you're out there working with somebody doing the same kind of work you're doing. You run across this person, you're doing the same kind of business you're doing, except he's taking shortcuts. He's not living as honestly with his customers and clients and stuff. He's doing things with the service he's providing. He's getting more in a day. He's making a little more money maybe than you are, right?
Right.
But here's my thing. I think, yes, God still is looking out for us, you know, not only just doing good, but also looking out for us financially. But it's a balance in that. And I think when you have balance over the long term, you're probably going to end up in a better place, both financially and spiritually. Because see, what the person doesn't count on, who's going out taking shortcuts, is something going wrong with one of those shortcuts. It's just like I give this example. A husband and a wife married, the husband goes out, he's unfaithful, something happens, he runs into the girlfriend's other man and he gets shot and killed. For a moment, he had a really good thing he felt like was going until he ran into the other person that came in the house with a gun and killed him, right? And I've heard of stories like that happening in real life. So how do we help people live their lives in a way where they're not pulled to those other things, so to speak? Because some people are going to be out doing those things, like the guy who's on the same track as you but doing things differently.
Well, you got to keep your eyes on yourself.
Only on yourself.
Yeah, and constantly seek. But then we measure ourselves wrong. That's what I'm saying. We're always outside of ourselves. It's like if you ask people, why do you want a big house? They don't even know. It's just because somebody else got one. Why do you want a Mercedes? You never had one. But you only want it because somebody else got it. But then without being renewed, there's like a form of self-hatred. You know what I'm saying? We don't love ourselves enough to keep our eyes on ourselves. So we're constantly searching outside.
Or do we love ourselves, which it sounds like this what you're saying, or do we love ourselves based on what we accomplish and
that's the only
what
way
we receive?
Yeah, because if we don't accomplish nothing, you feel just void. It's still an outward thing.
I'm I'm still kind of trying to wrap my head around the idea because once again, to me, and I'm gonna just use being a chef as an example. If I have decided to be a chef and I go to a culinary school, you're gonna have the instructor there and you're gonna have a textbook, like most schools. In any subject that you go to, you have an instructor and you have a textbook,
Right.
and you get taught out of the textbook,
Right.
right? How many people do you see from time to time go to the classroom and start doing their own curriculum? I'm sitting in a science class, but I want to talk about social studies. I want to talk about.
It makes no sense
It
to
makes
come to a class with the wrong book. You don't come to a science class with an English book.
So this is my thing. The decision to go this path, understand when you come in, you have a professor and you have a textbook.
Right.
And so every time when we say this to believers, quote
Right.
unquote, once you buy in, you have an instructor or instructors and you have a textbook. So if you're not living a certain way that is according to the textbook, it's pretty obvious to me when we say, well, what can we do for that person? Well, bro, you need to stay in your textbook. That's what you need to do.
Well, I'm going to
Sometimes they need the support.
Okay, but that's a
I'm
decision
going
you're
to-
making. If I come into a classroom with a bunch of people in the classroom, right, and we all students, and you got one instructor, and all of us got textbook, and I need help, I'll look to you. You're gonna guide me with help from the textbook. Maybe you understand. Maybe you're further along than I am. But what I don't do is say, "Well, man, forget what you studying. I'm gonna talk about English and pop culture." See, now you're taking a stance in opposition of
Right.
something that you're not even
Right.
signed up for. It's not what you signed up for.
Well, so empowering people to function, and I understand where you were coming from, and I understand you're saying, both of you are saying a facet of what the truth is. Let's combine.
Merge it.
Let's merge it. What I'm hearing in your situation is you're talking about somebody who really needs that help and guidance. You're talking about the guidance and help. So when we bring those two things together, what is it that person has to come under? Because it's not discipleship. I heard that mentioned by getting help from somebody. That's one thing. That's having somebody come and help guide you so that you can get to a place where you can walk in those things on a day-to-day basis. But most, I'm gonna say this from a lot of people, especially men, unfortunately, can find themselves isolated because a lot of times we out working, we out doing this, we out doing that. Women, even with their busy lives,
Yeah, they're
seems-
social.
it seems that they're more connected than men are on a day-to-day basis in general. I could be wrong about that,
No, you're right.
but it seems like
100%.
that's just a truth.
Yeah, come in, man.
And so when you talk about the disciple part, when you talk about getting in the book, the motivation of being in, because there's some people, they don't want to come to class. I hate to say it like that.
Well, no, you're right. But see, that's the point. It's like, what are you signing up for? See, all of this should be done before you sign up, right? If we have we giving everybody a paper to sign up for a class. Everybody that
But you
wants
know
to
that
sign
when
up for the
somebody
class.
sign up for an exercise class, everybody don't come.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you don't come to the exercise,
You
don't
don't get the
expect,
benefits.
and you don't get the results you want.
You don't get the
right?
benefits. You
If
don't.
you want fitness results,
You don't get the benefits.
you're not gonna get.
And that's the issue, I guess. I'm thinking, how do you, when you walk, because I think about the scripture that says, and Enoch walked with God, and then it also goes on to say that Enoch had this testimony that he pleased God, right? So what is when you talk about the walk, it's not Enoch and God walking side by side. It's about how he lived his life. It's about his obedience. It's about how he heard and understood from God and live that out.
But he accepted it though, right?
But he accepted it at a heart level. And I know that's why I know that's the beginning issue.
Yes.
But to continue in that, you gotta be purposeful, and you gotta have intent. And that's something that I think sometimes people lack. People lack purpose and intent. And when you don't have purpose and intent in what you're doing towards your relationship with God, it wanes. I talk about one thing, you've heard me talk about this before, drift. Sometimes when you're not spending time submerged in something or spending time with something often enough, you drift from the principles. It's just like you have a certain employee. If you don't check in and inspect what you expect that employee to do from time to time, that doesn't mean you're micromanaging them. It means I need to inspect what I expect from time to time so that I can make sure that this employee hasn't drifted from the principles.
But if I tell you you drifting, what would your response be?
Your response should be to go back and review the principles and make sure you're staying in the principles.
So now to the believer here that is drifting.
Same thing.
Same thing, right? See, I understand if a person that is on the outside is unwilling to accept because they're on the outside.
Correct.
But if you're on the inside, you should not have a willingness to be combative to review your playbook. And that's the problem.
But Dale, we see all the time, don't we? People who are combative to reviewing their playbook, and they say they love God. Now this is my thing. I'm gonna go back to the thing we started with.
Yes.
Don't have a fear of the Lord. Fearless when it comes to that,
Yes.
because they ain't willing to go back to the playbook. They say they love God, but their lifestyle doesn't speak to that.
So what does that make them then?
Reprobate in my book.
And what else? A liar, right?
Yeah.
If you're telling me one thing and I'm doing something different, that makes me a liar,
So
right?
let's even take it back to the last episode. We talked about, what's her name? Taylor? What?
Joy Taylor.
Joy Taylor. Wouldn't it be that the men that she was interacting with were plain out liars?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
So, shouldn't we be able to look at ourselves as men and women who believe in God and know when we're lying to ourselves?
Yes. Yes, we should.
So, why isn't this easier to solve? Because it seems like it's not easy to solve, and for one simple reason.
And what is
Because we're dishonest with ourselves. We're lying about who we are.
There you have it. Simple solution for a simple answer. We just make it complicated because you make it subjective when it's really not a subjective thing. Either you do or you don't.
So what do you say to the person, Dale, who has been going to church, doing okay, but still lying themselves about several things in their life, and they won't deal with it?
Mm-hmm.
What's the conversation with that person like?
Depending on the situation. Give me an example.
Okay, let's say the person is having an issue at work.
Mm-hmm.
Person's married, but they're having an issue at work because they've been flirting with a woman at work,
Oh, no.
and they know they shouldn't be doing it, but they continue to do it.
Yeah, that's self-inflicted.
And they know they need to stop, but they're not stopping.
Yeah.
And now they've gotten themselves in some hot water, and let's say their wife don't know about it.
Okay.
What kind of conversation do you have with that guy?
I couldn't even have a conversation. I mean, on that, the whole premise is wrong. I mean, because you have to know that that's wrong. I mean,
But let's be honest. How many times have somebody, and I'm gonna say this in general, has been presented or propositioned with an opportunity in the workspace? And this can happen to a woman too.
yeah,
Proposition with an opportunity in the workspace. Know they got a wife or husband at home or whatever, and they've went on with this. Maybe they ever crossed the line yet.
no, they already crossed the line. You might well just go all the way, kick the field goal. That's
But I'm saying they come into you and saying, I find myself not being able to stop doing this, and I know it's wrong.
What's wrong with you?
It don't sound like there's a whole lot of empathy in that situation.
No, that is him. I really feel for him.
It's the
But I mean, stuff like that. I mean, you just gotta know.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying the person knows it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying the person knows it's wrong,
And they keep doing it.
Yeah. So what's
And
the
they keep-
I would just tell them to go all the way.
Okay.
what my conversation with?
No, I'm saying that's the answer.
Don't be halfway
The-
wrong.
See there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Now the person doing the crime and doing the thing that they know is wrong has to accept that's what it is.
Right.
There's no excuse for the person that's doing the wrong. It's like you're doing.
But they
wrong.
want to be wrong. That's why they keep doing it.
But now the question is, as somebody who's you're speaking into their life, they came to you,
Mm-hmm.
they talked to you, they opened up the door to the conversation to you. To me, you have the right.
Yes,
You have the right to let them know you're in error.
absolutely.
And here's my thing that I would probably say. I would say, call me if you feel like it's getting overwhelming. Use me as an accountability partner. If something's going on at work that you feel like is about to push you over the edge, pick up the phone and call me. And if this person is open to it, I will call you periodically. I think I'm not saying that I'm giving them a pass, but I'm saying because you came to me and you know you most likely know how I'm going to respond to it. I'm saying that's where we should take that opportunity to help somebody in a situation like that, maybe helping them get past whatever it is. Now, if they continue, and you know what you also got to tell them, you need to stop doing whatever you're doing
right now.
You need to stop that.
Yes, 100.
Now, if they don't want to receive that part, then sometimes you got to take your hands off of it if they keep doing it.
That's my point though, right there. If I come in and I ask you, and then you give me an answer, and then I'm saying, no, that ain't it. I got to burn on the stake, right? What are you talking about here? But that's real. Everybody got rules and guidelines. Ain't that right? Everybody has rules and guidelines.
Yeah.
And if you decide, I don't want to obey the rules no more, well, we did our part.
Yeah.
So one last thing I guess I want to really kind of dig down into is, again, before we close this out, how do we get somebody who's in a place like what we just talked about, who you've had this conversation with? The first thing I want to ask is about how they're conducting their life on a day-to-day basis. What are they dealing with? Are they making time with, number one, if they're married, how much time are you spending with your spouse?
Mm.
And what is going on with you and your spouse? Are the two of you spending time with God together? That's a big issue.
And what if the answer is no?
Well, I think now you need to try to find out where they can get some help beyond you.
But what
Because
if
it's not
what if
just
they
you.
don't even like them no more?
If they don't even like them no more.
Yeah.
Hey, these are real situations.
Let me say this.
Yeah. Sometimes they don't feel out of love.
Yeah. A lot of times people fall out of love. If people stay married 30 and 40 years that you talk to, at some point they weren't in love with one another.
Right.
Mhm.
So if there's not abuse, if there's not infidelity, if there's not any of those major negatives going on,
What if they snore a lot or something?
what is your excuse for not trying to figure out how to improve the relationship and talk about because if you're not talking to your spouse about how you feel, right? And you're leaving them in the dark, but you're also thinking about stepping out on them at the same time, that's an extremely unfair thing to do to them. Because it's one thing if you're having these conversations and saying, hey, I'm really struggling. We need to go and see somebody. We need to talk to somebody because this is how I'm feeling.
Mhm.
That's what there's supposed to be some transparency. And when you don't have that transparency, what happens is somebody begins to sneak.
Yeah. That's exactly.
And that's how relationships get destroyed because there's not really true honesty. There's not really that transparency that you need to sustain the relationship. Because you can't be, if y'all are one, then how are you hiding anything from one another?
Or why would you?
Yeah. If you're supposed to be, if you're becoming one, how are you hiding something from that person? So in helping a person, you still got to be honest. Yeah, I don't want to be with that person no more. Okay. Think that, play that, think that all the way out. Where does that go? Once you get a divorce, what happens? If you got kids, what happens to them? Think that all the way out to its end.
Mhm.
Don't just think about how you feel. Think about all the other dominoes that fall because you're going to make that decision.
Yeah.
You can't tell anybody they can't divorce somebody. You can't tell anybody what to do, but you can tell somebody you need to play this all the way out to its end. And remember every domino that's going to fall, everything that's going to be impacted by this decision. And are you willing to pay the price that goes with that?
Yeah.
Like you say, that yes, that's how you would
That's how I would
address the
approach.
situation,
Yeah.
right? Approach it. The thing is, though, in your examples, is you got to have a willing participant. That's the problem. And I guess the initial example that you was given is if a person is willing or not.
Willing, yeah. And the willing, and see, willing is a heart posture. And we know from the situation with Job, when we look at what happened with Job, Job's obedience was forced. He was swallowed up by a whale and spit out. And then God says, go and see the people of Nineveh and do what I told you to do in the first place. You're going to preach to them and they're going to repent and they're going to be saved. I'm not going to bring this punishment on them. But he wasn't willing because he had to be forced to do it. So
Since he wasn't
willingness is a condition of the heart.
Since he wasn't willing, what happened? See, it comes back to the same thing. It'd be the same circumstances.
Yeah. He sat there waiting for something else to go wrong. He still wanted them to be punished. He said, I knew you were going to be gracious to them. I knew you was going to be good to them. I didn't want that. I really wanted you to punish them.
Yeah.
So this thing about being willing is a heart condition. And when we see this issue of people saying they love God, but they're really unwilling, they're really not in the right relationship they need to be in with God. They're not in the right relationship.
They actually might be lying.
They might be, and they might very well be lying. And let me unfortunately say this. There's a place for liars.
Yes. A proper place for liars.
Golden Corral.
So I'm not gonna
That's what he said.
I don't want to prolong this one, but I wanted to talk about, just the condition of the heart and starting there and then the behavior and bring yourself into a place of accountability if you have to, if you're struggling with something.
But I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
Real quick.
Yeah.
If from Joyce Taylor's perspective.
Yeah.
Her being whatever.
Yeah.
And she's meeting people that are professing to be believers.
Correct.
But they're obvious liars.
Right.
Does this go to, and tell me if this makes sense. Anything you do, I believe, especially if it's something that's going to affect your life in the long term, don't we think there should be some level of preparation?
Absolutely.
Some type of homework, some type of thing to measure you by. In other words, if I call you a believer, I must first understand what that means.
What that looks like.
Right? Because if I'm going to make this decision to be with you for the rest of my life or see you in a serious relationship, I want to make sure that you line up with what I would know that would be.
Mm.
Right? Should that not be required?
That's absolutely required. You should be seeing the fruit of the Spirit in the person: love, joy, peace, long suffering. I think one of the things that jumped out at me is this scripture that's in it's in Romans. It says, "Provide things honest in the sight of all men."
Well, but it goes to my point, as you stated. If I want a Christian man, shouldn't I know what one is
You should know what one looks like.
before I start dating?
Or a Christian woman, you should know what she looks
Right.
like.
Before I even start
Start.
talking to you, I should kind of know.
And you're judging all, unfortunately, in that situation, you're judging all Christian men by the liars that you're running into. How many liars are there? Probably an infinite number of liars. See,
Well,
that's the problem.
But here's the thing too. We must take into account. Maybe she really just doesn't like believers.
That
You
could be
might
true
not
too.
like the fact of living by certain rules.
And that may be very well true. And if that's true, then you get what you are. Right? So when you go out seeking something, you're only going to get what you really are at your core. Unless somebody's out there purposefully trying to deceive you. And that can happen. But I think either she's running into deceivers or she's getting what she is.
I think it's
One of the
both.
two.
Two things could be true.
Yeah.
Yeah. She could have been coming across a lot of deceivers. And then at some point she's like, well, you know, I really don't like them anyway. I like this kind of guy.
Well, some people are dishonest about what they actually like. They say they like one thing and they'll put all of these wonderful, good criteria together and say, this is what I like. But when they actually go out and seek the person, the criteria you'll see by the person they choose is very
Doesn't
different
line up with
than
what
they're
they
saying.
say. Yeah.
So, again, lying to self. I think the most important thing, one of the things you have to deal with is yourself internally and get into your heart and see what's really there and be honest with yourself. And then, just like anything, when something's gotten into your heart that shouldn't be there, you got to work on getting the root of that thing out of your heart so you can function the way that you're supposed to function. Because, you know, it talks about things being sown in the soil of your heart, and just some hearts is stony ground. You know, some hearts are the weeds grow up around it and choke whatever comes in that's related to God, related to the word. So all of these different things can happen in your heart, and you got to really be self-examining about your heart and start from there and begin to live out of what the good things that you put in your heart, the things of God that you put in your heart. As you continually put those things in, you will start to transform in your thinking and in your heart, but first in your heart. And then you'll start to live that out. And so that's what has to happen. Any thoughts before we go?
That one hit it for me. That last point, because, you know, yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what it is. Well, gentlemen, I think we closed out the second part of this, and I think it was good to have a little bit of a conversation on that part of it, because I think a lot of times we talk about people living a certain way, and it's the how sometimes. And sometimes you do need help. Sometimes you need somebody to come alongside beside you and provide some accountability, provide some support. But at the same time, your heart got to be right. You got to be truthful about what you're dealing with. See, what people want to say is act like nothing's going on in their life, act like they ain't struggling with anything. And I think that's a wrong perspective too. I think you got to be honest first with yourself, if nobody else. And then you need to find somebody, especially if you're dealing with some things that's related to immaturity in the word and stuff like that. You got to find an accountability partner, somebody you can trust that ain't going to share your information with everybody else, because you don't need that. You just need somebody you can talk to and talk through things to get yourself in a right place of understanding.
Yeah.
So with that, gentlemen, I'm going to say we're going to close this episode out.
Yes, sir.
And I think I'm going to go and get me something to eat after this.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
I'm going to get
That was
some
great,
food.
actually.
All right. Well, I'll say number one, thank you everybody for joining us on this episode. We really appreciate you hanging out with me, Marlon, and Dale for another episode of Epic Dialogue. Hopefully This is something that helps you see things through a different lens. It makes you look at yourself more critically. And we look forward to your comments. We look forward to your shares. We look forward to, you hitting that like button and that subscribe button.
Follow.
And
Subscribe.
I'll say this, we appreciate you joining us. And come back again. We'll have another episode soon. Thank you so much. Peace.
Deuce.
Deuces.